Welcome to U.S. News Source Channel. War is shifting south again. Operations resumed on the southern front. Ukrainian armed forces launched a strategic advance. New operations have begun in the key region of the south. Russian army is under simultaneous attacks from many fronts. Losses are now irreparable. A group of Ukrainian forces landed in key areas in the south. As a result of the operation in Kherson in the south, it was reported that about 150 Russian soldiers were neutralized. Mutual attacks on this front, on the other hand, increased the tension between the countries. Russian army started its attacks with its last force in the south, for fear of starting an operation against the Crimea. Ukrainian troops are carrying out critical operations on many fronts with their strategic moves. Help is pouring in Ukraine. Course of the war has now started to turn completely in favor of Ukraine. Russian army is dealing with serious problems due to the increasing losses day by day. In fact, it is known that security measures have been increased on the Eastern Front in recent days, and many Russian soldiers are trying to escape from the army. Russian soldiers, who tried to escape, became confused about where to go. Ukrainian armed forces, on the other hand, began to push the Russian army even more with their accurate moves. Moreover, the war, which has intensified on the Eastern Front in recent days, has now started to shift to the Southern Front again. To remind you, the Ukrainian army launched important operations in Kherson in the south, allowing the Russian army to withdraw. Then, with the dominance gained in the region, the advantage of its position began to be used. Crimea is within the range of HIMARS. After a while, the increase in explosions in the territory of Crimea and the hitting of critical military points prompted Russia to act. Russia has launched attacks again in the Kherson region, where it has withdrawn by announcing. Then the Ukrainian army started operations in this region again. Immediately after the Russian troops began their attempts to attack in the south, the Ukrainian forces began to respond with strong attacks. Natalia Humeniuk, head of the Southern Defense Forces Joint Press Center, stated that the Russian troops were maneuvering on the front and were afraid of counterattacks. Humeniuk also stated that the results on the front have not been reported yet, but very effective results will be heard soon. Various exercises have been started in the regions. At the same time, according to this name, Russian troops begin preparations on the right bank of the Dnipro River to attack the infrastructures. In addition, the liberated areas are also attacked. While the operations intensified, it was reported that the Ukrainian armed forces landed on the left bank of Kherson. There was even a landing on this front by the Ukrainian army. It is stated that towards the left bank of Kherson, 3 groups of Ukrainian troops landed on high-speed boats. It was reported that with this move of Ukraine, they landed on the left bank of the region. It was even claimed that this descent was made towards the boat dock area. No. It is stated that the boat with the Ukrainian army was closed with precision for long meters. As a result of this landing, clashes occurred and many Russian soldiers were neutralized. As it is known, mutual attacks in the region have started to increase in the last few days. In the past days, attacks have been organized on this Kherson front. Russian army launched attacks on the infrastructures on the front. Some infrastructures were damaged by these attacks. Immediately after, the Ukrainian army took action and launched counterattacks. As a result of the operations carried out, it was reported that a total of 150 Russian soldiers were neutralized on the front. According to the statements of the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, 50 Russian soldiers were neutralized as a result of attacks on Russian positions even in the Chaplinka region alone on this front. Losing hundreds of soldiers on many fronts, Russia began to experience serious decreases in its operational power. This enabled the developments on many fronts to progress completely in favor of Ukraine. Moreover, since these regions, where mutual attacks are increasing, are important for both sides, it also increases the tension between the countries. As it is known, this Kherson region is of great importance because it borders the Crimea. Even though Russia seems to have given up on the region for these reasons, it seems that it could not give up. One of the biggest reasons for this is the increase in explosions in Crimea in recent days. To remind you, attacks on critical points in Crimea were reported recently. Most importantly, it was claimed that the Russian railway logistics point in the region was targeted. It is known that Russia carries out the flow of military shipments by rail many times. The Ukrainian army, on the other hand, does not want to allow Russia to provide a supply flow to the soldiers fighting in the country by targeting such logistics points. In this way, both the offensive and defensive power of the Russian army will be reduced. For these reasons, all kinds of moves made on the fronts have a much more critical importance for both sides. At the same time, the support from the countries in the course of the war also determines the fate of the countries regarding the war. It is also known that the greatest support for Ukraine since the beginning of the war has come from the United States. Ukraine can achieve much greater success in this war, which it started with much smaller and less resources. This is due to various military support from countries and the capabilities of the Ukrainian army. Moreover, critical aid is still continuing. United States announced that this time it will purchase 18 sets of international field artillery tactical data systems and automated artillery fire systems designed for HIMARS missile systems, which it had previously supplied to Ukraine. Within the scope of this program, these systems will be installed and strengthened on 18 new M142 HIMARS missile systems to be produced for Ukraine. According to the statement, these data systems are designed for integration and operation with various sources to create the overall operational state of fire support. It is also reported that this is a computer workstation network that processes information and transmits data from the front observer to the fire support units. It was explained that the functions of this system include structured management and automatic processing of firing requests, creation of tactical decisions for firing and monitoring mission performance by making decentralized decisions. It is now seen more clearly that all kinds of military support provided to countries are of great importance for countries. It was also reported that another aid news came from Finland. Finland was the first country to send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine before. This also attracted a lot of attention. Now it has been claimed that Finland is considering sending 30 more of these Leopard 2A4 tanks. It is also known that Finland is one of the countries with the most Leopard 2A4 tanks in Europe. Moreover, this NATO has the distinction of being the first country to supply heavy armored combat vehicles. It is thought that this country has 100 Leopard 2A4 tanks at the moment. It is estimated that the second one is also in storage and can be transferred to Ukraine. These aids will probably be sent piecemeal. With such military equipment and ammunition support, it is aimed to strengthen the Ukrainian army even more. Moreover, it was claimed that Finland would hold talks with Germany to send these tanks to Ukraine. According to the statements, if this aid offer of the country is approved, the Ukrainian army will have heavy combat vehicles. This will provide a critical advantage in the course of the war. Because it was stated that these tanks coincided with Russia's T-90M Proryv tank. This situation will make it more difficult for Russia to gain military equipment advantage and achieve success. Since the beginning of the war, it is known that the biggest effects on Ukraine's gaining an advantage have been the aid from the countries. If success is achieved against a much larger country like Russia, it is thanks to the support provided by many countries such as NATO. On the contrary, Russia, on the other hand, is dealing with serious problems day by day due to sanctions, and sometimes it is difficult to focus on the war. At the same time, military equipment such as combat vehicles provided in the later days of the war will enable the Ukrainian army to achieve greater success in ground operations. For this, any kind of support to be provided is very important. In the long run, these developments may determine the fate of countries regarding the war. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.